Usually when people talking about Nintendo's going third party, they always make the argument that third parties don't want that to happen. And, well, I'm going to play devil's advocate today. I think that's exactly what the third parties want to happen. They want Nintendo to go third party, and I'll tell you this. This is why they want Nintendo to go third party. Now, when you look at the Xbox or the PlayStation and people start talking about the games, mostly they'll mention some exclusives, but most of the games they mention are multiplats, because let's face it, those two consoles, while their exclusives are a big part of them, for the main part, those two consoles are ran by their multiplats. And when you look at Nintendo's consoles, Nintendo consoles are ran by are fueled by Nintendo games. Nintendo games fuel Nintendo consoles, not third-party games. Whereas third-party games fuel the 360, they fuel the PS3, they fuel the PS2 to be leaps to have that huge 150 million install base that everybody's always talking about. The main reason why the it was because it was a cheap ass DVD player too. But in terms of gaming, it was that wide array of third party games that the PS2 had that the Xbox didn't and the GameCube didn't, that allowed it to have that huge jump on the rest of the market. Now, you might be thinking, okay, what is he trying to get at? Now, I'm gonna get at it like this. The reason why I think third parties want Nintendo to go, third party developers or third party publishers want Nintendo to go third party is Nintendo games will sell to Nintendo fans. They even sell to people that's not like hardcore Nintendo fans, but they want to play the next Smash Brothers. They see a part. They want to play the new Mario game because they like the way it looks, or they want to play the new Zelda because it looks okay to them or something. But Nintendo games will sell sometimes to people that's outside the realm of Nintendo fans. They just fans of a certain game that Nintendo has, a certain game that Nintendo has, like Smash Brothers or Mario Kart. So they get those people sometimes to buy their systems. Now, third parties usually have trouble selling their games to people on Nintendo platforms. So one of the ways you can rectify that, where you still might have trouble selling to those people, but you wouldn't have to worry about the resources that go into building engines, especially with like the last couple of generations, with Nintendo being extremely different in terms of the Wii to 360p PS3, and go from being drastically different in the last generation to being moderately different this generation. And you see that like now they're like some games that used to come to the Wii every year don't come to the Wii U anymore, or they're not coming to the Wii U. And I honestly believe it's because those third-party publishers, they want the Wii U to fail, so that the Nintendo games, the Nintendo first-party games that they'll undoubtedly still be around, will fuel the other systems, because now they've opened up the market for these two systems for a whole group of people that originally wouldn't buy them. Those people that only bought Nintendo systems, whether they owned maybe some of them own a PC and they'll stick with their PC. Maybe some of them owned the people that only owned the Nintendo system. They're opening up this avenue for those people to go buy the next PlayStation system or the next Microsoft system, and they can try their best to sell those games to those people, because now those games are going to be out there in those people's faces, and they don't have to worry about wasting extra money, quote unquote, or wasting wasting resources trying to fit the game to another controller, or fit the game to another architecture, because they have their teams built. They have their teams built around making the game work for the Sony system and the Microsoft system. Nintendo can survive. They can't. That was wrong. Nintendo can't survive without some third-party support, because I mean, some of the games didn't sell well on Nintendo systems anyway. But Nintendo can't survive without some third-party support, and they're getting some. But if the rest of the third parties start acting like the bigger third party, if the rest of the publishers start acting like some of the bigger publishers are now, and not putting their games on the Wii U, or not putting their games on the Wii U, then Nintendo's in trouble. And it's mainly because, well, like I said, they can if they can get Nintendo if they can push Nintendo out of the console market, they can switch focus and try to generate all their resources towards two systems that they already put their resource towards, and then they can worry about trying to sell their game to people that wouldn't have access to their games at first. They can try to bring those people in to buy their games with considerably less effort, because they can either pick up a PS4 and play their Mario, Zelda, or whatever's on that system, or they can pick up their 360 or their Xbox One, or not PS4, PS5, and play their Mario Zeldas and stuff on that system, or they can pick up their Xbox 2s and play Mario Zelda or whatever on those systems. They wouldn't have to necessarily buy these. They wouldn't necessarily have to buy. They wouldn't have to buy Nintendo system, because Nintendo systems wouldn't be there. All that would be there for them to choose between is the Sony system, the Microsoft system, with the Nintendo system out of the way. So, to conclude, what I've been saying is, I think third-party developers or third-party publishers want Nintendo to be third-party, because it's a lose for Nintendo, and it's a win for them, because they get a wider audience. Nintendo also gets a wider audience, but the people that buy Nintendo, that would buy Nintendo games on the PlayStation, or buy Nintendo games on the Xbox, some, if not the majority of those people, would buy the Nintendo systems as a quote unquote secondary system anyway, to play those games. So Nintendo, their sales for all intents and purposes might stay the same, or then again they might jump astronomically. But for the most part, the EAs of the world, they get to try to sell their game to a wider audience without any more effort on their part, outside of slightly more advertising, or trying to get the advertising to appeal to quote unquote Nintendo fans. Whether or not that's patronizing people, which I've seen a lot of companies do that before, or that's just or if it's just changing the way your game looks. Maybe you don't advertise your game as a mindless shooter. Maybe you try to advertise as having a story or having a purpose, and give the people that wouldn't buy your game at first what they want, and you get those people to buy your game, because the people that bought mindless shooter 1, 2, and 3 are undoubtedly going to buy mindless shooter 4. But you try to get those people that didn't play mindless shooter 1, 2, and 3 to pick up mindless shooter 4. And those that mindless shooter those are the people they want to come and play their game. They want the Nintendo fans to come and buy their game. But it's hard to do that when Nintendo fans, they can get the games they want on a system and get a different game without it actually being your game. They can go out and get a Ubisoft game. They can go out and get well, for the most part it is just Ubisoft, but they can go out and get a game from somebody, well, like they can go get Need for Speed's not coming to the Wii U. Okay, well, next year Project Cars come out. That kind of thing. But when you narrow down the choices, and essentially people, well, they have no choice. They have to conform to wherever the market's headed, and the way the market's headed now is not a good look. Have a nice day.
Your arms are just too short to box with God.